Alright, so we're going to continue 2.1, investigating the derivative. Now, a few things to keep in mind is there's a lot of times that we're going to use a derivative. So it's really important that you understand that using the derivative will help you find the slope of the tangent line. And so we're going to be using this so often that this is going to be an imperative thing. So that's why it's in all caps. Think of me yelling at you if that's helpful, like I'm angry, that you understand fully that the derivative is the slope of the tangent line. So we will get to a point where we get to a shortcut. I'm not going to show you the shortcut yet. I'm sure I'm going to bring it up before you even take the next test. You might have to know this for the quiz though. But we use the same formula over and over again, just with different functions. So if I'm asking you to find the limit as h approaches 0 of this function, and we've done this enough before that will be engraved in your mind, that h goes in the denominator, f of x stays in the numerator, right here, and then what changes, I'm just going to change colors, is the f of x plus h. And as you get a lot of practice, you'll realize that something, will happen over and over again. I'll just stick with that same green color. Distribute that 2/3 to each one, plus 2/3 h plus 3 minus 2/3 x minus 3 all over h. And this is where everything starts to cancel. 2/3, 2/3 x, 3 minus 3. These h's even cancel because that's all that's left. And so there's no 0 to plug in anywhere, so you're just left with 2/3 as this final answer. 2/3. Kind of looks ugly. Let me fix that. 2/3. So, and this should make sense. Like, without even looking at the graph, y equals 2/3 x plus 3 up 2 over 3. The graph looks something like a terrible graph, but use your imagination. And if I said, what's the slope at any point on here? Well, the slope of the entire line is 2/3. So that should make perfect sense. So anytime you see a linear function, the answer is going to be the slope. So kind of be smart about things. Like, don't just turn into a robot, which I'm showing you as if you were a robot. But these answers should make sense. Anyway, the process is still the same here. You can even see how I set it up for you. Set it up this way because I notice students struggle the most with those pieces, even though they're the easiest parts. And what changes is the x plus h in for x into each of these problems. Now this one's not nearly as easy because there's a lot more work to be done. So you have the limit as h approaches 0. And again, I'm going to do 2 steps at once because I expect you to be able to do foiling and then plus 2xh plus h squared. But you'll notice you have to also distribute that 1/2 to each of those. If you don't like how fast I'm doing this, then please, by all means, work it out and then double check that I have the same answer. Pause the video if you need to. So what you'll notice is the 1/2 x squared will cancel out with this. Let's see, minus 2x will cancel out with this. 3 cancels out with this. So just to change colors. I'm also going to factor out an h in the remaining things on top. X plus 1/2 h minus 2 all over h. Then what you'll notice is these h's will cancel, and you can directly substitute 0 in right here. Well, 0 times anything is 0, so you're left with just an x minus 2. So if you wanted to know the slope at a tangent line of the graph, let's say at x equals 0, so at if you plug in 0 up here, we're at the ordered pair 0, 3. Well, the slope at that point would be 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And we could examine a graph, but I'm not going to do that right now. So there's a huge difference between those. This one did not have an x in the final answer, and this one did. And that should make sense because the slope of a linear problem never changes. That's why there's no x when you find the derivative of a linear problem. But this slope is changing. That's why you need to have an x in this. Same thing with a cubic. Your answer will have an x in it because the slope is changing throughout. So I guess I should have had you think about it, but I just gave you the answer. Sorry about that. So here's a few more, and again, these are not linear functions, but the work is all the same. We're finding the limit as h approaches 0. In other words, we're finding the derivative. Maybe I'll start being a better teacher and using this notation. And again, it's easier for students to recognize that what ends up happening is you have x is replaced with x plus h plus 2. I should have gave myself more room, but this is why in Unit 1 we had you do all of this rationalizing technique where you rewrite it as x plus h plus 2 plus square root of x plus 2. I recognize I'm in this problem right now. And you got to multiply the denominator by the same thing. Try and get as many problems done in 15 minutes if you can't tell. As you FOIL the numerator, this is why that trick works, is the outside and the inside terms, one's positive, one's negative, so they cancel each other out. So you're just left with x plus h plus 2 minus, because again the square roots cancel as well, minus x plus 2 all over. Don't FOIL that denominator. That's a waste of time. H is still there, and then you have the square root of x plus h plus 2 plus square root of x plus 2. And what you'll notice, let me go back to this color, is x minus x will cancel. 2 minus 2 will cancel. So you're just left with an h on top that you could cancel out with this h. Now, please don't forget that you still technically have a 1 on top. So our answer is going to be 1 over. Now we can plug 0 into the denominator. And for this h, well, adding 0 is not going to change anything. So we have the square root of x plus 2 plus the square root of x plus 2. Well, how many square roots of x plus 2s do we have? 2 of them. So the derivative of this function is this. Hopefully this is all making sense. Same thing goes with the next one. I'm going to try and squeeze it right here. Again, you might need to pause the video and go back and rework it. There's nothing wrong with that. As you look at this problem, we're going to do the limit as h goes to 0. Remember, it's all over h. We're going to subtract off that function. And maybe I'll go back to that blue color. It just felt right. And we replace x with x plus h. And this is where, I know some of you did not like that I just stuck that h into the denominator of each of these. But just as a reminder, when you divide by h is the same thing as 1 over h. I don't know if that's helpful to anybody. Multiplying by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing by that whole number. But what I'm trying to do is get rid of that h somehow, because we don't want an h in the denominator. So what I have is x plus h plus 2. Then I need to multiply this by this x plus 2. And in my numerators, I'll go back to that blue color, I need to multiply this 3 by x plus 2, so that's 3x plus 6. And then I need to multiply this 3 by all that. And I'm also going to distribute the negative in there. So minus 3x plus, nope, that's minus 3h. Minus 6. And what you'll notice there is the 3x's cancel, the 6's cancel, so I have negative 3h. Oh, I can cancel out now this h with that h. So now I'm ready to plug in 0 in for this denominator. And what I have is still a negative 3 in the numerator over, plugging in 0 right here is just x plus 2 then, squared. Perfect. So again, at any point, if you feel like I'm going too fast, just pause the video, try it on your own, see if you get the same thing. If you're still stuck, email, wait till we're in class, come seek me out, figure something out. I completely forgot to do this next part though, so I'm going to do this next part and then do this. So now what we're practicing is finding the equation of the tangent line, which I told you that we would do. So before you find the equation of the tangent line, let's review for a second. Point slope form, y minus your y coordinate equals your slope times x minus your x coordinate. Well, they give you the x coordinate is 7. Well, how can we find the y coordinate? Well, that's pretty straightforward. Just plug in 7 right here. 7 plus 2 is 9, and then the square root of 9 is 3. But finding the m is going to be a little trickier. But we just found out the slope of the curve up here. I don't know if you noticed, this is the same equation as right above it. Didn't realize that was the very next question. So in order to find the slope, we just write it this way. F prime and replace x with 7. And now we can tell the reader that we're going to go to this equation. 1 over 2 square root of 7 plus 2. Well, it's pretty straightforward then. 7 plus 2 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. Times 2 is 6. So the slope of this point now is 1, 6. So how do we write this answer then? Is for whatever reason they always want you to write it as y equals. Now it does not have to be in slope-intercept form. So what most people do is they just write as 1, 6 x minus 7. I hope you see everywhere I'm getting these values. But instead of writing minus 3 right here, just add 3 over. Now if you want to simplify that, you can, but they accept this answer. The only thing you have to be careful of is like if you simplify incorrectly, they will mark it incorrect. So if I do the next one, same thing. Y minus your y coordinate equals slope x minus your x coordinate. Well, they give you the x coordinate is 1. You can find out your y coordinate by plugging 1 in here. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Right? Just happen to be the same value. So how do we find the m? We found the equation earlier. So it's f prime of 1 is equal to negative 3 over 1 plus 2 squared. I just took the equation we got up earlier and replaced x with 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, squared is 9. Negative 3 over 9 is negative 1/3. That is your slope. So how do we write this equation? Y equals negative 1/3 x minus 1. And then instead of minus 1 there, just add 1 to the right side. That's how they prefer. Also, don't forget about multiple choice questions. They might simplify this in a multiple choice question, and you just have to perform the arithmetic. I'm going to leave this up to you to use your graphing calculator to verify that those are correct answers. And then I'll come back to finish these notes.